He never feared enemies, bullets, or betrayal, but the woman clutching 2 babies on his floating island almost brought him to his knees. If you're drawn to forbidden love wrapped in danger and devotion, consider supporting us with a super thanks. And if you're already rooting for this improbable couple, leave a "love conquers all" in the comments below. The Atlantic wind still howled around the landing pad when Salvatore Salgianvecchio stopped dead in his tracks. The helicopter behind him hummed as the blades slowed, but his entire world seemed to shift into silence. He had returned to the floating island he'd built as a sanctuary, steel, concrete, money and secrecy suspended above the restless ocean, and instead found a woman standing at the far edge of the platform, drenched from head to toe, trembling but unbroken. 2 babies, small and exhausted, clung to her shoulders. Their soft cries were swallowed by the wind. She shouldn't have been here. No one should have been here unless he allowed it. His perimeter was tight. The currents were cruel. The approach was nearly impossible. Yet she stood there barefoot, cheeks red from the cold, dark hair stuck to her face like wet ribbons. Fear lingered in her eyes, but beneath it, strength, fire, a kind of desperate bravery that made something tighten in his chest. His security team moved forward automatically, hands near holsters, eyes sharp, but Sal raised one finger. They halted like statues. Her gaze snapped to him. For a split second, neither moved. The wind, the sea, the metal beneath their feet, all of it faded. There was only the dawn of the Gambino family, carved from dominance and discipline, and the fragile, fierce stranger holding 2 lives against her heart. "Speak," he said, his voice steady as stone. Her lips parted, shivering breaths escaping in little bursts. My boat overturned. I didn't know this place existed. I just saw lights. I swam until I couldn't anymore." The babies whimpered. She rocked them gently, though her arms trembled from exhaustion. Sal studied her, not with suspicion, but with something darker, something older, something protective. Coincidence was rare in his world. Survivors were rarer. Women with babies washing up on his private island? Impossible. Yet here she was. "Come inside," he said. His men hesitated, confused by the softness in his tone. He didn't repeat himself. He didn't need to. The woman followed, though each step looked painful. The glass doors slid open, letting warm air wrap around her and the babies like shelter. She blinked rapidly as her body tried to adjust. Water dripped onto the marble floors beneath her feet. They looked too small, too fragile in this place built for men who made the world shake. Her voice broke when she spoke again. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to intrude. I'll leave as soon as the boys are—" "You're not leaving," Sal said. Her eyes widened. He stepped closer, the scent of the ocean still clinging to his suit. Up close, he saw a faint purple mark on her cheek. Fresh, ugly. Rage whispered to life inside him, cold and silent. "Who hurt you?" She flinched. "It's nothing. I fell. Lies, and not good ones." He crouched slightly to meet her gaze, lowering himself in a way no one had seen him do in years. The babies pressed tighter into her. He felt something crack open inside him at the sight, something he'd buried long before becoming Don. Falling doesn't leave marks shaped like fingers. Her throat bobbed, and she looked down as if shame were a weight she carried. He didn't like that. Didn't tolerate it. "You're safe here," he said quietly. "No one touches you or them again." Her breath shook. She didn't believe him yet, but she wanted to. One of the babies began crying, soft, tired, desperate. Instinctively, she shifted her grip, soothing him with a gentle sway. Sal watched her, transfixed. The world's most powerful men bowed to him, feared him, whispered his name in back rooms. Yet nothing commanded his attention like this woman fighting exhaustion with maternal ferocity. He stripped off his suit jacket, warm from his body, and placed it around her shoulders. She stiffened at the unexpected tenderness, then slowly melted into it. "Thank you," she whispered. This time, he said nothing. Words felt too small. A guard approached, breathless. "Boss, blankets are coming. Towels too." "Good," Sal said, "and prepare the corner suite." Every security member in the room froze. The corner suite was forbidden territory, Sal's private wing. No one stayed there, no one entered it unless summoned. To give it to a stranger was unheard of. Elena didn't understand the weight of what had just happened. "Sir," she whispered, "I can't stay there. I don't want to be a problem." "You're not a problem," He didn't raise his voice, didn't explain, didn't justify. His men obeyed him when he spoke this way because they knew the decision was final. Her shoulders trembled under his jacket. Her eyes burned with unshed tears. He didn't look away, couldn't. One of the guards handed her warm blankets. Her hands shook as she wrapped the twins, relief flickering across her face. She kissed each tiny forehead, eyes closing for a moment, as if absorbing their warmth. When she opened them again, she found Sal watching her. "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Elena, and them." She hesitated. Matteo and Luca. The names rolled through him like a quiet promise of something he didn't yet understand. He motioned toward the elevators. "You need rest, food, clothes. My doctor will see you and the boys." Her eyes widened again, but this time with something closer to disbelief. "Why are you helping me?" He inhaled, slow and deliberate, as if wrestling with the truth. His jaw flexed. His gaze dipped to the babies, then back to her. "Because you made it here," he said, "and no one makes it here unless they're meant to." A faint, trembling sound left her chest, almost a sob, almost hope. She let the guards escort her toward the private wing, but just before the elevator doors closed, she looked back. Sal met her gaze, and something unspoken passed between them, a recognition neither wanted but both felt. Destiny wasn't real. He didn't believe in fate. But tonight, the ocean had delivered a woman with 2 babies to the last place on Earth she should have reached. And he knew, every instinct sharpened by decades in the underworld knew, that someone had driven her into those waters. Someone had hurt her. Someone had chased her. And whoever that someone was, they had just signed their own death sentence. If Salvatore Gianvecchio cared about something, he protected it. If he protected it, he owned it. And if he owned it, he would burn down the world before letting anyone touch it. As the elevator doors closed around Elena and her boys, Sal felt an old, dangerous part of himself awaken. The part that destroyed threats without mercy. The part that never lost anything he claimed. The part that had been dormant far too long. He didn't understand Elena yet. Didn't know why fate or coincidence or desperation had thrown her into his arms. But he knew this. She wasn't leaving. And he wasn't letting go. Elena didn't remember the last time she felt warmth. Not emotional warmth. She had forgotten what that even looked like. But physical warmth. The elevator hummed softly as it climbed toward the private upper levels of the floating island, and the sensation of heated air washing over her skin made her eyes blur with stunned relief. Matteo slept heavily against her right shoulder, while little Luca whimpered against her left, still frightened from the chaos they had survived. The guard stood a respectful distance behind her, saying nothing, his gaze trained forward, not on her, not on the babies, just forward. As if the mere presence of Salvatore Gianvecchio's choice wrapped her in an invisible shield that no one dared approach. She didn't feel safe yet. Safety was a concept she had learned to distrust. But for the first time since sunrise, maybe for the first time in months, she didn't feel actively hunted. She didn't feel like every minute might be her last. The elevator chimed softly, and the doors slid open to a long corridor draped in warm light, expensive artwork, and the faint scent of cedar. The floors were dark wood, polished to a shine. The air was quiet, too quiet. The guard led her to a set of double doors at the end of the hall, the corner suite. She remembered the way the other men had looked at Sal when he commanded it, as if he'd offered her the keys to a kingdom he guarded with blood and ruthlessness. The guard opened the suite doors and stepped aside. Inside, everything looked impossible. Cream-colored walls, soft carpets, a large bed with layers of blankets, a seating area near glass panels that overlooked the ocean, lamps with warm tones. It didn't feel like it belonged to the same man whose presence had nearly stolen the breath from her lungs downstairs. This was someone's sanctuary, someone's private world. She had no idea why she was being allowed inside it. "Mom," the guard said gently, "Dr. Russo will be here shortly. If you need anything, press the silver button near the bed." She nodded, unsure how to respond. He hesitated for only a moment, then he bowed his head, bowed to her, and left. The suite became silent. Elena exhaled shakily, not a normal breath, a cracked, exhausted release that sent her knees buckling. She dropped onto the edge of the bed, clutching the boys tightly. Tears finally spilled, quiet and uncontrollable, dripping onto the blankets wrapped around the twins. She hadn't cried when the boat overturned. She hadn't cried when the waves pulled at her legs like hands dragging her down. She hadn't cried when she realized Luca's tiny fingers had gone cold against her neck. She had simply swum. She had pushed through the pain, the terror, the impossible distance. But now, inside a warm room with her children safe in her arms, her body finally gave permission to feel. She buried her face in Matteo's blanket, trying to silence the sobs. The door opened softly. She gasped and looked up, startled, but it wasn't Sal. It was an older man with silver hair and a medical bag. "Dr. Russo," he said warmly. "May I approach?" She nodded. He walked to her with calm, practiced steps, the steps of someone who had seen everything life could break and mend. He examined the twins first, moving gently, respectfully. His voice remained soft. "They're cold, but strong. Dehydrated, but not in danger. You did well, Elena." Her chin trembled. "I didn't have a choice. Surviving always looks like a choice from the outside," he said. "It rarely is." He handed her 2 warm bottles, prepared on the way by staff who must have been working with military precision since the moment she stepped inside. She fed Luca first, watching his tiny face relax as warm milk filled his belly. Only when both babies were calm did Dr. Russo turn his eyes to her cheek. "May I?" She hesitated. He waited. She nodded. He lifted her chin gently and examined the bruising. Fresh, angry, already starting to darken. His expression changed, not dramatically, but with a quiet anger that didn't belong to a doctor. It belonged to a man who worked for Salvatore Gianvecchio. "Someone did this to you." It wasn't a question. Elena closed her eyes. Her throat tightened. It didn't matter what she said. Her silence was enough. He didn't press further. He simply cleaned and treated the bruise with careful, tender hands. When he finished, he stepped back. "You and your sons are safe now, Elena. Salvatore does not offer protection lightly, and he never, ever rescinds it." Her breath caught. She didn't know what that meant yet. Not fully, but something inside her, something small and terrified, relaxed at those words. As Dr. Russo packed his bag, he paused and lowered his voice. "You should rest. Everything else can wait." When he left, the silence returned, but it no longer felt as heavy. She lay back with the twins between her, exhaustion pulling at her eyelids. She didn't know how long she slept, an hour, maybe 2, but it was the kind of sleep that felt like sinking underwater in a warm, peaceful sea, until a soft, controlled knock woke her. Her pulse jumped. The door didn't open immediately. Whoever stood on the other side waited, patient, respectful. Sal. She didn't know how she knew. She just knew. Her hands trembled as she gently shifted the babies to ensure they were comfortable. Her heart pounded. She smoothed her hair, though it was futile. She wiped her cheeks, even though the evidence of her crying still lingered. Another soft knock. Elena inhaled deeply. "Come in." The door opened without a sound. Salvatore Gianvecchio stepped inside, and the room seemed to shrink around his presence. He didn't wear the same suit. This one was darker, sharper, perfectly cut, but he looked more dangerous now, not less. His eyes swept the suite in a single glance, assessing, commanding, locking instantly onto the babies, then onto her. He closed the door behind him. Elena opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. Sal moved closer, slow, deliberate, stopping 2 feet from the bed. His gaze lowered to Matteo and Luca again, and something softened in his expression. Not much, just enough to make her breath catch. "How are they?" he asked quietly. "Better, sleeping, warm, good." The word vibrated in the air. She swallowed. "Thank you for everything, for letting us stay here, for you don't need to thank me." His voice was low, steady, but something under it sent a shiver through her. "I don't understand why you're helping us," she whispered. "You don't know who I am. You don't know what I'm running from." He stepped closer. Her pulse stuttered. "You came here with babies in your arms," he said. "Cold, exhausted, hurt. That's enough for me." Her heart twisted. No one had spoken to her with that kind of certainty in years. She looked down. I don't want to cause you trouble. Sal exhaled slowly. You won't. Whatever trouble you're escaping, it's not stronger than me. She felt the weight of his words, the promise in them. And when someone hurts a woman carrying her children onto my doorstep, Sal continued, his voice darkening, that becomes my business. She met his eyes then, really met them, and the air thickened between them. Elena's voice dropped to barely a whisper. You don't even know who did this. Not yet, he said, but I will. A pause, heavy, electrified. And whoever it was, they'll never touch you again. Her lips parted, her breath trembled. Something inside her, hope, maybe, stirred painfully. Sal's gaze lingered on her cheek, the bruise still dark. His jaw tightened, a silent storm gathering beneath his skin. You should rest, he said at last, softer now. I won't let anyone disturb you. She nodded. Thank you, Sal. He inhaled through his nose, not sharply but deeply, as if the sound of his name from her lips affected him more than he expected. Good night, Elena. He turned to leave, but paused with his hand on the door. If you need anything at all, you call for me, she whispered. I will. And when he stepped out, closing the door softly behind him, Elena felt her heartbeat echo long after he disappeared. Somewhere in the silence, the realization washed over her. She hadn't stepped into safety. She had stepped into a storm. But for the first time in her life, it felt like a storm that wanted to protect her. Morning came slowly to the floating island, the sunlight stretching across the ocean in thin strands of gold. The water below shimmered like a restless mirror, and for the first time since Sal had acquired this place, it felt less like a fortress and more like a threshold, somewhere between the world he commanded and the one he had never allowed himself to imagine. He had barely slept, not because of business, not because of threats, those he handled with routine precision. No, what kept him awake was the image of Elena asleep in the corner suite, curled protectively around her sons, her face softened by exhaustion, yet illuminated by a strength that unsettled him. He didn't like being unsettled, but as he sat at the long marble table of the island's dining room, untouched coffee cooling beside him, he realized something he hadn't said aloud in years. He didn't like being distant either. This island had been meant for isolation, control, power, without interference. And yet, last night, it had felt too quiet when he left her door. Footsteps approached from behind. Only one person walked with that calm assurance, Dante Moretti, his consigliere since before Sal became Don. Dante's presence was a reminder of the world Sal had built, loyalty and lethal efficiency wrapped beneath expensive clothing and polite manners. She's awake, Dante said, pouring himself coffee. The doctor checked again. The babies are fine. Hungry, but fine. Sal nodded once. Good. And the woman? Dante smirked slightly. Also hungry and confused and terrified, but not of us. Not exactly. Sal's jaw tensed. Someone hurt her. That seems obvious, Dante replied. And whoever it was didn't expect her to survive. Sal turned his gaze toward the ocean. Find out. What am I looking for? Dante asked. Everything. Dante didn't need further instruction. He simply nodded and left. But Sal didn't move. He stayed seated, motionless, with the porcelain cup untouched at his fingertips. The sun rose higher, throwing light across the room, illuminating the edges of his stillness. Then a soft, tentative voice drifted from the doorway. I didn't know if I was allowed to come in. Sal looked up. Eleanor stood at the threshold, barely inside the room, as if afraid to step 1 inch too far. She wore clean clothes, simple leggings and a soft, long-sleeve shirt his staff must have provided. Her hair, still damp from a shower, fell in loose waves around her shoulders. She looked younger somehow, but more vulnerable too. Behind her, one of the babies babbled softly in the stroller the staff had brought. Sal rose to his feet immediately. You don't need permission to walk anywhere on this island, he said. Her eyes flickered with uncertainty. It feels like I do. Sal approached her slowly, as though she might break if he moved too fast. This place is yours for as long as you stay. He didn't mean to say as long as you need. He meant to say as long as you stay, and that difference hung in the air between them. Elena swallowed, glancing away. I didn't want to disturb you. You're not disturbing me. His voice was low, firm. Sit, eat. She hesitated. Then she did. He pulled out a chair for her, not something anyone had seen him do in years, and the small, stunned look on her face almost made him smile. She sat slowly, settling Matteo and Luca beside her, making sure the straps of the stroller were secure. When she looked back up, she found Sal watching her, not with hunger or dominance or calculation, but with an alarming softness she didn't have the language for. The staff placed a plate of warm food in front of her, eggs, fruit, toast, tea, simple, gentle, the kind of breakfast a person made when they were trying not to frighten someone already wounded. Elena lifted a piece of toast slowly, her hand trembling again. She ate quietly. Sal waited. When she finished half her meal, she finally looked up. I suppose you want answers. Sal shook his head. I want truth. When you're ready to give it. Elena flinched, her breath catching. Truth isn't safe. He leaned forward, hands clasped on the table. Truth is protected here. Her fingers tightened around her teacup. Her eyes glistened, but she blinked fast, refusing to let tears fall. You don't know what you're offering. I know exactly what I'm offering, Sal said softly. Protection, shelter, a chance to breathe. My problems aren't small, she whispered. Neither am I. The air thickened. Her lips parted slightly. She swallowed again. Sal straightened slowly. Elena, you came here with your sons. That alone tells me danger wasn't giving you choices. So whatever you need, time, silence, food, sleep, you'll have it. A tear finally slid down her cheek. She wiped it quickly. Why? Why are you being so kind to me? Sal's eyes darkened, but his voice softened. Because someone should have been kind to you a long time ago. Her breath hitched. She looked away, struggling to steady herself. Then Luca began to fuss. Elena immediately reached for him, her instincts sharp and tender. She lifted him out of the stroller, cradling his tiny body with practiced gentleness. Sal watched her the way a man watched a flame he couldn't touch. Dangerous, mesmerizing, necessary. Would you like help? He asked suddenly. Her eyes widened. Help? With them, he clarified. The boys. She stared at him as if he'd offered to lift the ocean. No one has ever offered to help, she whispered. He rose, walked to her side and lowered his voice. Then allow me to be the first. He reached out, slowly. So slowly that she had time to pull away if she wanted, but she didn't. His fingertips brushed Luca's blanket, steady and careful. For a moment, the Don of the Gambino family held the smallest, softest weight imaginable, something infinitely more fragile than money, power, or reputation. The baby cooed. Sal's expression shifted, barely but beautifully. Something cracked open in him, something ancient and aching. Elena saw it. She saw the man behind the legend, behind the suits and the iron control, and she felt, for one dizzying heartbeat, completely unafraid. Luca reached toward Sal's tie with a tiny hand. Sal froze. Elena let out a shaking breath that was almost a laugh. He likes you. Sal had no idea what to do with that sentence, so he gently placed Luca back in Elena's arms. Your sons are strong, stronger than I am, she whispered. No, he said, stepping closer. They survive because you do. Her gaze snapped to his. His voice had that tone again, the one that wrapped around her like a protective cloak, warm and dangerous and impossible to resist. She felt her heart thud painfully. Too loud, too hopeful. I should tell you, she said faintly, about everything. You don't owe me anything. But I do, she insisted, her voice cracking. Because whoever hurt me, they won't stop. Not until they find me, or until someone stops them. Sal's jaw clenched. Then they won't reach this island. You don't understand. The people after me, they're... Elena, he cut in, voice low and lethal. There is no one on this coast, no one in this country, more capable of protecting you than I am. She stared at him, silent, torn, trembling. Sal inhaled deeply. Tell me what happened. Elena exhaled a broken breath and looked at her sons, then at the man who had already become the center of her safety. My husband, she whispered. He wasn't the man I thought he was. Sal went still. Absolutely still. He hurt me for years, she said, voice fragile. And when I finally tried to leave, he tried to take the boys from me, permanently. Something inside Sal snapped with a quiet, lethal precision. Her eyes filled with tears again. I grabbed them and ran. He followed. I stole a boat. It overturned. I thought we were going to die. Sal didn't breathe. He's powerful, she whispered, shaking. connected, dangerous. Sal stepped closer, his shadow falling over her, his presence wrapping around her like iron armor. "Elena," he said, voice dark and promising, "your husband is a dead man walking." She inhaled sharply, stunned by the ferocity in his tone. And in that moment, between fear and hope, between past and future, Salvatore Gianvecchio knew something with frightening clarity. He would destroy anyone who threatened her. He would burn the world before letting her be touched again. And Elena, shaking, fragile, strong, realized something too. She believed him, not because he was dangerous, but because for the first time in her life, someone was dangerous for her. The room seemed to shrink around them as Elena's confession settled in the air, thick and heavy, like an incoming storm. Salvatore didn't move at first. He stood perfectly still, controlled, composed on the surface, yet every muscle in his body felt pulled taut as a bowstring. It had been years since something cut through him with this kind of precision. He had lived too long in a world where betrayal was currency and violence was the language men used when words failed. But this, her story, hit him somewhere deeper. He thought he understood danger. He thought he had mastered every shadow that crawled across his world. But hearing what she had endured under the hands of a man who had vowed to love her, it did something to him. Something ancient, something primal. Sal sat down again, but it wasn't the casual, indifferent motion he used in meetings. It was slower, more deliberate, as if grounding himself before he broke something or someone. "Elena," he said quietly, "you should have never had to run like that." She pressed her lips together, her eyes shimmering with the mixture of fear and shame she always felt when talking about the past. "I didn't know where else to go." "Not knowing where to go," Sal said, leaning forward, "is not your failure. It's his." Her breath shuddered. She looked down at Luca in her arms, as if the sight of her son was the only anchor she had left. "He wasn't always like that," she whispered. "In the beginning, he was charming, gentle. He made me feel seen, protected, like I mattered." Sal's jaw tightened, but he didn't interrupt. "It changed slowly," she continued. "Little things at first. Words, accusations, isolation. Then it became bruises, apologies, promises, then bruises again, worse ones." Her hands trembled. "I tried to leave after the twins were born, but he said they weren't mine to take." Sal closed his eyes for a brief second, just long enough for the fury building inside him to sharpen into clarity. When he opened them, his gaze was steel. "Elena," he said, voice lower than before, "he won't touch you again." She swallowed hard. "You don't know him." "I don't need to," Sal answered. "I know men like him. I've buried men like him." Her breath caught, both frightened and strangely comforted. He leaned forward just slightly, but it felt like the room shifted with him. "Tell me his name." She hesitated. Her fingers tightened around Luca's blanket. Matteo stirred softly in the stroller, as if sensing the tension in the air. "Elena," Sal murmured, "look at me." She did. Her eyes were wide, uncertain, swimming with fear that wasn't directed at him, but at everything outside this island. "You're safe here," he said. "You and your boys, but I can only protect you fully if I know who I'm protecting you from." "I know," she whispered. "I know that. But saying his name, it feels like calling something dark out of the shadows." "Then I'll drag whatever comes out back into those shadows," Sal answered, "and make sure it never walks out again." Her breath trembled. She didn't want bloodshed. She didn't want revenge. She wanted survival. That was the difference between her world and the world Sal commanded. But something inside her softened at his words, like a heart thawing after too many winters. His devotion, unnamed, unrequested, yet absolute, wrapped around her like a protective cloak. And in that fragile, electrified moment between confession and consequence, the emotional tension surged like a wave, crashing onto the steel walls of the island. If Salvatore's fierce devotion to Elena and her babies is touching your heart, a super thanks is the most direct way to help us continue bringing this intense romance to life. Elena drew a shaky breath. "His name is Mark." She said it quickly, as if afraid the name itself might bite her. "Mark Callahan." Sal's eyes narrowed, not with fear, not with confusion, but with recognition. A thread of memory tightened. He had heard that name before. Too many whispers in Manhattan's wealthier circles. A banker, a quiet investor, a man who shook hands with politicians and smiled for the wrong cameras. A man who hid behind clean money and dirty actions. A man who thought he was untouchable. Callahan, Sal repeated, his voice a dangerous whisper. Of course, Elena stiffened. You know him. I know of him. Sal stood slowly, each movement controlled like a man preparing for war. He's the kind of coward who hires other people to do the things he's too weak to do himself. She flinched. He paused. He hurt you with his own hands. His voice edged with something she couldn't name. That tells me he doesn't trust his men enough to hide his weaknesses. Elena looked away, tears forming again. He'd kill me if he found me, or he'd take the boys and he won't touch them, Sal cut in. Or you. He stepped closer to her, close enough for her to feel the heat radiating from his body. That's a promise. She inhaled shakily, overwhelmed. I don't want you risking your life for me. You don't even really know me. Sal lowered his head, just a fraction, enough to meet her eyes directly. I know enough. Her heart hammered. You swam through the Atlantic holding 2 babies, he said softly. You protected them with your body, your strength, your will. That tells me what kind of woman you are. She blinked rapidly, tears clinging to her eyelashes. And I know this, he added. You deserved better than him, and you deserve safety now. Her lips parted slightly, a soundless gasp escaping. Let me protect you, Sal murmured. Her fingers trembled around Luca. I don't want to hide forever. You won't, he said. Not with me. Another tear slipped down her cheek. He reached out, slowly, giving her time to resist, and brushed it away with the back of his knuckle. She froze at the touch. It was gentle, too gentle, more dangerous than any threat her husband had ever made. Sal's hand lingered a moment too long. Elena, he whispered, no one is ever going to make you run again. She closed her eyes, letting the certainty in his voice wash over her like warmth she had forgotten. And no one will take your sons, he continued. They're under my protection now. Her breath caught again. You barely know them. He glanced at the twins. Something in his expression softened in a way she didn't understand. They survived the sea, he said. That makes them stronger than most men I know. She swallowed hard, overwhelmed. A soft cry rose from Matteo. Elena shifted, reaching for him, but before she could stand, Sal placed a hand gently on her shoulder. I've got him. Her breath hitched. She looked at him, confused. You, Sal, you don't have to. But he was already moving, already lifting Matteo with surprising gentleness, supporting the baby with strong, steady hands. Matteo blinked up at him, tiny fists curled, and Sal's face changed, subtle but unmistakable. A man used to ruling armies softened for a child who barely weighed 8 pounds. He likes you, Elena whispered faintly. He's smart then, Sal murmured. The warmth of the moment was almost too much. Elena pressed a trembling hand to her mouth, emotions overwhelming her. Not fear, not pain, something else, something like hope. Sal, she breathed. I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to, he said. Just stay safe. Stay here. Let me take care of the rest. Elena felt dizzy from the intensity of his gaze. You can't just make him go away. Sal handed Matteo back gently, his fingers brushing hers with a touch that felt electric. Elena, he said softly, I can make anyone go away. Her heart thudded hard. The meaning hung between them, dark and promising. Mark Callahan had no idea what kind of fury he had awakened. He had chased Elena into the sea. He had tried to take her sons. He had broken the wrong woman, one who had washed up on the wrong man's island. And Salvatore Gianvecchio didn't forgive sins like that. Elena, Sal murmured, I'll handle everything. She trembled, torn between fear and relief. What should I do? Sal's eyes gentled. Live, breathe, rest, and trust me. I don't know if I can trust anyone again, she whispered. Then trust me first, he said softly. I'll teach you how. She inhaled a shaky breath. Why are you doing all this for me? He held her gaze for a long moment, long enough for truth to form, unspoken but certain. Because someone should have done it sooner, he said, and because I don't walk away from people worth protecting. Eleanor felt something inside her crack open, something she didn't know how to name, something she hadn't dared to feel in years. And Sal, standing so close she could feel the heat of him, felt something dangerous settle deep in his chest. He wasn't protecting her out of duty. He wasn't protecting her out of principle. He was protecting her because she had become his, whether she knew it yet or not. The sun had barely reached its highest point when Sal's island shifted from silent tension to organized purpose. His men moved through the corridors with a precision that resembled a soft, disciplined storm. Every guard guard, every security operator, every digital system on the floating fortress had been rerouted into a single new directive: protect Elena and the twins. Sal didn't announce it. He didn't explain it. He simply said, "She stays safe," and the entire island obeyed. But Elena didn't know any of that when she sat on the wide terrace outside the corner suite, wrapped in one of Sal's thick grey sweaters, a garment far too large for her, but warm enough to feel like a shield. The babies were asleep in a double bassinet beside her, rocked into serenity by the gentle sway of the platform and the rhythmic push of the ocean breeze. She hadn't seen the ocean like this before. Calm, beautiful, almost forgiving. For a long moment, she allowed herself to breathe. She sipped her tea slowly, her fingers warming against the ceramic mug. She didn't remember the last time she drank anything that wasn't rushed, stolen, or cold. The quiet itself felt strange, like a luxury she wasn't quite allowed to accept. Her mind kept drifting to Sal, his voice, his promise, the shocking gentleness in the way he held Matteo earlier. The way he said, "Let me protect you," had echoed in her bones long after he left the room. She set down her tea, her hands trembling slightly, not from fear, but from the confusing possibility that maybe, for the first time in years, she wasn't entirely alone. Footsteps approached. She turned, startled, but relaxed when she saw Isabella, one of the staff members, carrying a soft blanket. "He asked me to bring this," Isabella said gently. "The babies might get cold if the breeze picks up." Elena blinked. "Sal asked?" Isabella smiled softly, as if she knew far more than she was saying. "He notices everything." That much Elena already understood. She touched the soft fabric. "Thank you. If you need anything, food, clothes, help with the twins, just tell us," Isabella added. "You're not a burden here." Elena swallowed hard. "I'm not used to being taken care of." Isabella hesitated, studying her with warm, understanding eyes. "Then maybe it's time someone is." Elena looked down, emotion tightening her throat. Before she could respond, the faint vibration of footsteps, heavy, confident, echoed behind Isabella. And then she saw him. Sal walked onto the terrace like he belonged to the horizon itself. The wind rippled his dark suit jacket. His hair was pushed back from his face. Every step he took seemed to command the world to still. He wasn't trying to intimidate. He wasn't trying to impress. He simply existed, and somehow that was enough to steal her breath. Isabella nodded respectfully and slipped away, leaving them alone. Sal's gaze went first to the twins, always them first, and Elena noticed. It made her chest tighten in a way she wasn't ready to understand. Only after ensuring they were peaceful did he look at her. "You're warm enough?" he asked quietly. She nodded, though her voice didn't seem ready to work yet. "Yes, thank you." He stepped closer, resting a hand on the railing beside her. His presence wrapped around her in a way no blanket ever could. Warm, grounding, powerful. For a moment they didn't speak. The ocean filled the silence, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was full, charged with something fragile and dangerous at the same time. "You slept well?" he eventually asked. "And you?" She countered softly. He let the corner of his mouth lift, barely, but it was there, a shadow of a smile, enough to make her pulse skip. "I don't sleep much," he said. She hesitated. "Because of your work?" "Because I'm used to being alert," he said, "always waiting for something to go wrong." Her fingers curled around the mug. She understood that feeling far too well. "So," Sal continued, "when I don't hear panic from your room, when everything stays quiet, I wonder if you're truly resting or if you're trying to endure something alone." The words hit her harder than she expected. "Sal," she whispered, her voice breaking, "I'm not asking for the whole story today," he said gently, "but I won't let you carry the weight of it by yourself." She looked away, blinking rapidly as tears pricked her eyes. "You barely know me. I know enough," he said. "Enough to understand you've been surviving, not living." Her breath trembled. "And I'd like to change that." The admission hung between them like a confession neither of them had rehearsed. Before she could speak, he shifted his stance, leaning slightly closer. not enough to overwhelm her, but enough that she could feel the careful intention in his presence. "Eleanor," he said softly, "tell me honestly, when was the last time you felt safe?" She closed her eyes. Safe? She almost laughed. A short, broken sound escaped her before she could stop it. "I don't know," she whispered. "Maybe before the boys were born, before he started accusing me of things I never did, before he turned every breath of mine into something he could control." Sal's jaw tightened. She saw it, felt it. "He isolated you." "Yes." "He lied to you." "Yes." "He hurt you." Her voice faltered, then dropped to a whisper. "Yes." He stepped closer, slow, deliberate. "And you think you need to apologize for any of it?" She flinched. He wasn't wrong. "Elena," he murmured, "you didn't fail. You didn't cause what he became." She covered her face with her hands, the memory of old wounds rising like ghosts from underneath her ribs. "I stayed." "You survived," Sal corrected. "And that's not weakness, that's strength." She shook her head. "I should have left sooner." "You left when you could," he said, "when you were strong enough. When you realized you weren't just protecting yourself anymore, you were protecting your children." Her breath trembled. "I thought he would kill us." "And he would have," Sal said calmly, "but he won't get the chance now." She finally looked up at him, eyes shimmering. "How can you be so sure?" His voice dropped, deep and steady. "Because he'd have to go through me first." Her heart pounded, too fast. "And no one," Sal added, "goes through me." Then the ocean wind pressed against them, the world narrowing into a single moment suspended in time. His certainty wrapped around her like a promise carved into stone. "You don't even know what he's capable of," she whispered. "And he doesn't know what I'm capable of," Sal replied. She stared at him, unable to breathe. He softened then, not in strength, but in expression. His hand moved slow as dawn, reaching up to gently tuck a loose strand of her hair behind her ear. His fingers brushed her cheek, soft and warm. Elena froze. No man had touched her gently in years. Her throat tightened, her limbs trembling from the unfamiliarity of tenderness. Sal withdrew slightly, giving her room to pull back, but she didn't. She leaned into his touch instead, just barely, barely enough to be felt, barely enough to break him. Sal's breath tightened, just a fraction, just enough for her to see something flicker in his eyes, something dangerous, something vulnerable. She drew in a shaky breath. "Sal, Elena, my life is a mess," she whispered. "I'm broken in places I don't know how to fix." He didn't move, didn't soften, didn't lie. "You're not broken," he said. "You're wounded. That's different." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "And wounds," he added, "can heal." Her chest ached, full of something fragile and terrifying. He brushed another tear from her cheek with the pad of his thumb. "Let me help you." "Why?" she whispered. "Why me?" He didn't answer immediately. His eyes drifted to the twins, sleeping peacefully, then back to her, slowly, intentionally. "Because the first time I saw you," he said softly, "you were standing against the wind, holding two babies, and refusing to fall." Her breath caught. "And I thought," he whispered, "if the world still has women like her, then maybe there's something worth saving." Emotion crashed into her like a wave. Before she could respond, a sudden noise from inside the suite startled the babies. Matteo let out a soft cry. Sal stepped back instantly, not coldly, but with a protective sharpness. "You see to them," he said. "I'll handle everything else." She nodded, wiping her cheeks. Sal walked toward the door, then paused. He turned to her, his voice low. "Elena, listen to me." She looked up. "No matter what happens next, you're not alone anymore." Her knees nearly buckled. He held her gaze 1 second longer, long enough to burn something unforgettable into her heart. Then he left the terrace, his shoulders squared, his steps purposeful, the storm inside him already gathering force. Elena clutched her sons as they whimpered awake, her heart pounding with a new truth. She had come to this island to survive, but now she wasn't just surviving, she was being claimed. The afternoon unfolded slowly on the floating island, thick with unspoken tension and something more delicate, something forming like fragile glass between Eleanor and Sal. After he left the terrace, Eleanor spent the next hour tending to the twins, feeding them, rocking them, pressing gentle kisses to their foreheads as they blinked sleepily at her. But even as she focused on her sons, her thoughts kept drifting back to him. Salvatore Gianvecchio, A name whispered in certain Manhattan circles. A name treated like a loaded weapon. A name associated with power, danger, control. And yet every time he looked at her, Eleanor felt something she hadn't felt in years. Safety. It terrified her. She tried to bury herself in small tasks, folding baby clothes the staff had brought, preparing bottles, adjusting the blankets around the sleeping boys. But her heart kept replaying the moment his fingers brushed her cheek. The gentleness in that touch contradicted everything she thought she understood about men like him. But Sal wasn't like any man she'd ever known. Before her mind could wander further into dangerous territory, a knock echoed from the doorway of the suite. Soft, controlled, not demanding, not forceful, just present. She turned. "Come in." The door opened slowly. Dante stepped inside first. Sharp suit, sharp mind, sharp eyes. Behind him, another man stood, thinner, younger, holding a tablet and wearing nervous energy like a second skin. "Elena," Dante said politely, inclining his head. "Sal asked me to check on you." Her chest tightened. "Is he all right?" Dante's lips curved in the faintest hint of amusement. "He's fine. He's very focused." That didn't ease her worry. It intensified it, because she had seen his eyes when he heard Mark's name. She had felt the shift in the air, the way violence settled on his shoulders like a familiar coat. "I don't want him getting hurt," Elena said quietly. The younger man, Tommaso, shifted uncomfortably, as if she had said something absurd. Dante watched her for a long moment, then spoke softly. "Elena, the danger on this island doesn't fall on Sal. It falls away from him." She didn't fully understand that, but she didn't need to. Her concern wasn't about power dynamics or criminal reputations. Her concern was about the man who had brushed her tears away, as if they mattered. The younger man stepped forward. "We wanted to install a new security system in your suite," he said nervously. "If that's okay." "What kind of system?" she asked, tightening her grip around Luca. Dante gestured toward the walls. "Sensors, cameras, panic buttons, reinforced locks. A private line that connects directly to Sal's phone." Her breath caught. "All that is for me?" "For you," Dante confirmed. "And the twins. I don't want to be a burden," she whispered. Dante's expression softened in a way she never expected. "You're not a burden. You're a responsibility Sal has chosen." The word chosen struck her deeper than she wanted to admit. Tommaso moved to the walls, setting up small devices with quiet efficiency. Elena watched him for a moment, then turned her gaze back to Dante. "Be honest with me," she said softly. "How dangerous is this?" Dante inhaled slowly. "You're not the first woman who's needed protection," he said, "but you are the first woman Sal has placed in his private suite." Elena's breath faltered. "That means something," Dante added. "More than you realize." She shook her head slightly. "He barely knows me." "Sal doesn't act on impulse," Dante corrected. "Whatever he's doing for you, he's certain about it." That frightened her more than anything, because certainty from a man like Sal wasn't a fleeting gesture. It wasn't fragile. It wasn't breakable. It was a force of nature, and forces like that didn't remain neutral forever. Before she could respond, another knock sounded behind Dante, this time harder, more urgent. Dante turned immediately, every muscle in his body sharpening. Sal entered. The room dimmed around him, or maybe her senses simply focused too intensely on the way he carried himself. Broad shoulders tense, jaw tight, eyes dark with something cold and electric. He was the embodiment of a storm, controlled but barely. Dante stepped back without a word. "Elena," Sal said softer when he spoke her name. "How are the babies?" "They're asleep," she whispered, unable to pull her gaze from him. "Is everything all right?" He exhaled slowly. "We need to talk." Her heart dropped, fear rising in her throat. Not fear of him, but fear of what he might say. Sal looked at Dante and Tommaso. "Give us the room." They left instantly, the door shutting quietly behind them. The silence that followed was thick and charged. Sal didn't approach her right away. He walked to the window, staring out at the endless sweep of water, hands clasped behind his back. His body looked carved from tension. Only after several long seconds did he speak. "I made some calls." Her stomach tightened. "About Mark?" "Yes." Fear surged. "Sal, I didn't want you to..." He turned sharply, his gaze cutting into her with heat and something like anger, but not at her. Never at her. "You didn't want me to what?" he asked softly, dangerously. "Protect you? Keep you alive? Keep your sons safe?" She shook her head. "No, I don't want you hurt because of me." The look he gave her was almost disbelief. "Do you think I'm afraid of him?" "No," she whispered. "I'm afraid of what he'll do to provoke you." That softened something in him. He stepped closer, not fast, not slow, but with purpose. His presence filled the space like gravity. "Elena," he murmured, "there is nothing that man can do that I can't undo." She closed her eyes, tears pooling again. "What did you find out?" "Your husband," Sal said the word with contempt, "has filed a missing person report." Her breath froze. "He's looking for us." "Yes." Sal's voice dropped lower. "He's mobilizing his contacts, calling old colleagues, pulling favors." A shiver slid down her spine. "But he doesn't know you're here," Sal continued, "and he won't." She nodded, but fear still crawled beneath her skin. "He's resourceful. He finds things, people." Sal moved closer, close enough for her to feel the warmth radiating off him. "Not this time," he said, "unless someone on this island betrays us." Her breath hitched. "Is that a possibility?" "No," he didn't hesitate. "Every man on this island belongs to me. Their loyalty is not in question." He paused, then added more quietly, "But I need you to trust me." She looked up slowly, her eyes meeting his. "I do." That simple phrase changed the room. Sal stepped closer, his voice dropping to a rough whisper. "Say it again." Her heart pounded. "I trust you." He released a breath that sounded like a man letting go of a restraint he'd been holding for too many years. His jaw flexed, his eyes darkened. His hand lifted, hesitant, almost careful, before he brushed a strand of her hair away from her cheek. "Elena," he murmured, "I will keep you safe. I swear it." She could feel the warmth of his palm hovering near her face, not touching now, but close enough to make her entire body tense with awareness. Her voice trembled. "Why does it matter so much to you?" His expression changed, softening and hardening at the same time. "Because the second I saw you on that landing pad," he whispered, "something in me moved, something I thought was dead." Her breath caught, "And ever since then," he continued, "I haven't been able to think about anything else except you and those boys." Her heart nearly broke with the intensity of it. "Sal," she whispered. He stepped even closer now, his presence all-consuming, his voice low and unguarded. "I'm not asking you for anything. Not now. Not ever unless you want it. But I need you to understand something." He leaned in, his breath warm against her skin. "You're under my protection, not out of obligation, not out of pity." His eyes traced her face, slow and reverent. "But because I care what happens to you." Her lips parted, a soft gasp escaping. "No one," he whispered, "will ever hurt you again." Her knees weakened, her breath trembled, her heart raced wildly. And Sal, seeing the emotion flooding her eyes, softened, cupping her cheek gently, his thumb brushing away a fresh tear. "You're safe here," he said again, gentler now, "with me." Elena didn't know if she should fall apart or fall forward, so she did neither. She simply let herself feel, for the first time in years, the possibility that safety and tenderness could coexist. That maybe one day she could stand without fear, breathe without trembling, live without hiding. And Sal, dangerous, powerful, unyielding Sal, looked at her like she was the first light he'd seen in a lifetime of darkness. Neither of them said another word. They didn't need to, because in that charged silence, something irreversible settled between them, something that neither danger nor distance could undo. Not anymore. Elena couldn't shake the weight of Sal's confession. Even after he stepped away from her, giving her room to breathe, the air around her still hummed with something electric, something unspoken. She stood, frozen in the middle of the suite, one hand resting against her cheek, where his palm had lingered only moments before. He cared what happened to her. Those words rang through her chest like a bell she didn't know how to silence. They echoed in every fragile place she'd tried to rebuild. She had spent years trapping her heart behind iron bars, locking every soft thing away. But one look from Salvatore Gianvecchio, steady, fierce, unbearably gentle, and she felt those old defenses shaking. He left the room eventually, his steps heavy with purpose, leaving Elena alone with the twin boys and the sound of her own racing heartbeat. She moved to the bassinet and adjusted the blankets around Matteo and Luca, her fingers trembling, not from fear this time, but from something far more dangerous. Hope. She wasn't supposed to feel this. She wasn't supposed to want safety from a man like him. She wasn't supposed to feel her pulse leap when he stepped closer, or her breath stutter when he whispered her name. But she did. And she didn't know what terrified her more, her past catching up to her, or the possibility that she was beginning to trust someone again. Sal stormed down the corridor the moment he left her suite, the quiet fury inside him sharpening with every step. Dante waited for him in the operations room, screens glowing, maps displayed, signals tracked. The floating island hummed beneath their feet, alive with security systems, surveillance feeds, encrypted communications. When Sal entered, the room snapped to attention, but Dante didn't speak right away. He studied Sal's face, reading the storm brewing there. "What did she tell you?" Dante asked. "Enough." Dante nodded slowly. "Then you know we're dealing with a man who won't stop." Sal turned toward the center monitor. "Neither will I." Dante folded his arms. "We need to be strategic. If Mark Callahan is mobilizing his contacts, he'll be digging through anything he can get his hands on. Bank logs, hospital records, police reports, credit cards. Elena's disappearance will be treated like a kidnapping, even though she was the one trying to escape." Sal's eyes hardened. "He won't find a trail. He might not need one," Dante said quietly. "Men like him get lucky when they don't deserve it. Then I'll make sure he runs out of luck." The silence between them intensified. Finally, Dante exhaled. "What's your move?" Sal's jaw set like stone. "I want everything on Callahan. I want his schedule, his contacts, his locations. I want to know where he sleeps and who protects him. I want to know how he thinks, what he fears, and what he's willing to lose." Dante arched an eyebrow. "You're planning to strike first." "I'm planning to end this," Sal corrected. "You're not thinking like a don right now." "I'm thinking like a man," Sal said quietly. "One who refuses to let her suffer another day." Dante didn't respond immediately. Instead, he studied Sal with a depth of understanding only decades of loyalty could create. "You care for her," Dante said softly. "Not a question, a truth." Sal didn't answer, but the flicker in his eyes was enough. Dante sighed. "All right then, I'll gather everything we know. We'll make a plan." Sal nodded once. "Good." But just as Dante turned away, Sal spoke again, his voice lower, more dangerous. "And Dante?" Dante glanced back. "No one touches her. No one frightens her. No one gets within 10 feet of those babies unless I say so." Dante nodded solemnly. "Understood." The island shifted into full lockdown mode. Behind the scenes, silent protocols activated. Infrared detection, underwater sonar sweeps, drone surveillance across a 30-mile radius. Sal had turned the floating island into an impenetrable fortress long before Elena washed ashore. But now he did it with purpose, with fury, with devotion. Elena spent the next hour pacing the suite, unable to settle her thoughts. The twins slept peacefully, unaware of the storm swirling around their lives. She pressed a hand to her heart, trying to understand why it raced every time she replayed Sal's words. "I care what happens to you." How long had it been since anyone had said those words to her and meant them? She was still thinking about him when a knock sounded at the door. Her pulse jumped. "Come in," she said softly. The door opened, but it wasn't Sal. It was Isabella carrying a tray of food. Behind her came 2 more staff members, one with folded clothes, the other with toiletries and baby supplies. "We're here to set up the nursery," Isabella said warmly. "Sal asked us to make sure you and the boys have everything you need." Elena blinked. "A nursery?" "Just a small one," Isabella said. "Portable, safe, comfortable. He wanted it ready today." Emotion hit Elena hard. She struggled to swallow around the tightness in her throat. They worked quietly, efficiently, transforming a corner of the suite into a cozy, immaculate space. A soft rocking chair, a playmat, fresh blankets, wipes, formula, even small toys. The contrast between her old life, scarce, tense, suffocating, and this gentle abundance shook her to her core. When the staff finished, Isabella lingered behind. She stepped closer, her voice low. "He looks at you the way he has never looked at anyone." Elena stiffened. "Isabella, I know what it means when Sal makes room for someone in his private spaces." Isabella continued. "He's a powerful man, but he's also a lonely one." Elena's breath trembled. "I don't want to bring danger into his life." Isabella smiled sadly. "He lives in danger, but you bring something else." "What?" "Light." Elena felt tears sting her eyes. "I don't know how to be light for anyone." "Then let him be light for you first." Elena inhaled sharply. She didn't know if she deserved that. She didn't know if she could trust it. But the thought of Sal, his steady presence, his promise, his warmth, wrapped around her heart like a fragile bandage. Before she could say another word, Isabella slipped out, leaving Elena alone again. She moved to the window overlooking the ocean and watched the sun begin to lower in the sky. The water glowed orange and gold, a mirror for the fading light. Her reflection stared back at her, tired, bruised, scared, but for the first time, not hopeless. Evening rolled in quietly, shadows stretching across the island like a blanket of calm. Elena sat in the rocking chair, humming softly as Matteo slept against her chest. Luca rested in the bassinet, his tiny breaths even and peaceful. The room was dim, only the soft golden lamp casting warmth across her skin. She didn't hear the door open. She only felt the shift in the air, the gentle pull of gravity that happened only when he entered a room. Elena looked up. Sal stood at the doorway, still dressed in the same charcoal suit, though the top button of his shirt was undone now. His tie was gone. His hair was slightly tousled, as if he'd been running a hand through it during tense conversations. He looked tired, but the moment his eyes landed on her, something loosened in his face. "You're awake," he said quietly. She nodded. "I didn't want to nap too long." He stepped inside, slowly, carefully, as if aware of the fragile tenderness filling the room. His gaze drifted to the nursery setup. Isabella did well. "It's beautiful," Elena whispered. "I've never had anything like this." Sal said nothing for a moment. Then he took a breath and stepped closer, stopping only a foot away from her. "Elena," he murmured, "there's something I need to tell you." Her heart skipped. "What is it?" He lowered himself onto the ottoman in front of her so they were eye level. His gaze softened when he looked at Matteo, sleeping against her. "We found your husband's movements." Her entire body tensed. "He's in New York," Sal continued, "calling in favors, pulling at threads, but he has no idea where you are. No digital trail, no witnesses, no evidence of your location. But he won't stop," she whispered. "No," Sal said, "but neither will I." Their eyes locked. "You won't face him alone," he said. "Not while I'm breathing." Emotion crashed into her, so powerful she had to grip the arm of the rocking chair to steady herself. "Sal," she whispered, "I don't know how to thank you." His voice dropped to a raw murmur. "You don't owe me anything," he said. "Just let me be here." Her lips parted. "Why me?" He didn't look away. "Because you survived. Because you fought for your sons. Because even bruised and terrified, you walked into my world with your head high." Her breath trembled. "And because," he whispered, "when I look at you, I feel something I haven't felt in a very long time." Her pulse hammered. "What do you feel?" she asked softly. He leaned forward, slowly, deliberately, until his forehead nearly touched hers. "Alive." Her breath caught. "And you," he added softly, "you don't have to be afraid anymore." Elena didn't move. She didn't breathe. She didn't speak. She simply let the moment happen. Dangerous, intimate, quiet. Sal brushed a thumb across the back of her hand, a simple touch, but it set her entire body alight. "Rest," he whispered. "I'll keep watch." And she believed him. She truly believed him. For the first time in years, she believed someone, and that belief felt like the beginning of something neither of them could stop now, not even if they tried. Night settled over the floating island like a velvet curtain, pulling shadows across the water and wrapping the place in a quiet that felt almost sacred. Eleanor sat in the rocking chair long after Sal left the room, her mind spinning, her heart aching in ways she didn't know how to name. He made her feel safe. He made her feel seen. And that terrified her more than anything Mark had ever done, because safety was something she could lose, because being seen was something that could be ripped away. Still, she couldn't shake the warmth in Sal's eyes when he said he felt alive around her. What was she supposed to do with that? The twins slept soundly, Matteo in her arms, Luca in the bassinet beside them. She hummed softly, the sound trembling with emotion she couldn't hide. Eventually, exhaustion pulled her under, and she drifted into a restless sleep, her cheek resting against Matteo's soft hair. Sal didn't sleep. He rarely did on normal nights, but tonight sleep felt impossible. His body was tired, but his mind was on fire, plans forming, scenarios unfolding, possibilities calculating with lethal precision. He paced the command room, the glow of monitors casting sharp light across his face. Dante watched him from a distance, leaning against a console with his arms folded. "You're going to wear a groove in the floor," Dante murmured. Sal didn't stop. "Tell me again," Dante sighed. Mark Callahan contacted 2 private investigators, a retired officer with a gambling problem and a real estate developer who's been laundering money for politicians in Jersey. None of them know anything useful yet. Yet. Yes, Dante echoed. Yet. Sal finally stopped pacing. His back muscles tightened beneath his shirt, his hands curled into fists. "He won't stop," he said quietly. "He'll dig deeper, he'll pull harder, and eventually he'll get close enough that he'll think he has a chance." "We're prepared for that," Dante replied. "We've got surveillance on every dock from Montauk to Battery Park. We're tracking digital footprints. Tommaso is monitoring Callahan's phone activity." "It's not enough," Sal muttered. Dante raised an eyebrow. "You want to take him out preemptively?" Sal didn't deny it. "Not yet," Dante said. "Not until we know more. Not until Elena is stronger. Not until you can do it without drawing heat." Sal's jaw flexed. The restraint in him was barely more than thread. "You care about her," Dante said again, more softly this time. Sal didn't answer. He didn't need to. Dante exhaled. "Then do this right. Don't act from emotion. Not even for her. Protecting her means being strategic. Ruthless, yes, but calculated." Sal stared at the monitors one last time before turning toward the door. "I'm going upstairs," he said. "Checking on her?" Dante asked. Sal didn't respond, but the look in his eyes made the answer obvious. The hallway outside Elena's suite was quiet and dim, the ocean wind brushing softly against the windows. Sal approached the door slowly, as if afraid his presence alone might disturb her. He hadn't intended to come here. His mind said, "Stay away, keep distance, don't cross lines he couldn't uncross," but his feet brought him anyway. He ran a hand through his hair, gathering himself. This wasn't like him. He didn't hover outside doors. He didn't check on people. He didn't worry. But he stood there now, hands curled at his sides, breath steady only because he forced it to be so. Finally, he knocked lightly. "Elena?" No answer. He hesitated a moment longer before opening the door just enough to look inside. His breath caught. Elena was asleep in the rocking chair, her head slightly tilted, Matteo tucked against her chest, her arms wrapped around him protectively. Luca slept quietly in the bassinet, tiny fists curled near his chin. The warm lamp beside her cast a soft glow over the room, painting her in gold. She looked peaceful. She looked fragile. She looked his, at least in the part of his mind where he allowed fantasies. Sal stepped inside silently. He approached her slowly, his footsteps soundless on the carpet. When he reached her, he lowered himself to one knee in front of the rocking chair, not out of weakness, but out of instinct. He didn't want to tower over her, not when she looked so small and exhausted. He reached a hand toward her cheek, stopping inches away. He wanted to touch her. He wanted to brush the hair from her face. He wanted to kiss the bruise on her cheek and erase every trace of the man who caused it. But he didn't. He didn't allow himself. Instead, he gently adjusted the blanket around Matteo, careful not to wake either of them. Elena stirred slightly. Her eyes blinked open, sleepy, confused, until they focused on him. "Sal," she whispered, her voice rough from sleep. He swallowed. "You were uncomfortable. I just wanted to make sure you were all right." She blinked again, her eyes softening. "I'm fine." "You fell asleep sitting up," he murmured. "You should rest in the bed." She looked down at Matteo. "I didn't want to move him." "I'll help," Sal said quietly, rising to his feet. Elena hesitated, then nodded slowly. Sal reached for Matteo with a tenderness that startled even him. The baby shifted slightly, but didn't cry. Sal held him securely, his strong hands supporting the tiny body as if it were the most precious thing he had ever touched. Elena watched him in awe. Big, dangerous Salvatore Gianvecchio, holding her sleeping son like he was made of glass. He carried Matteo to the small crib and gently laid him down, adjusting the blanket just as Elena would. He even rested a reassuring hand on the baby's back for a moment, his eyes soft. When he turned back to her, Elena's heart squeezed painfully. No man in her life had ever shown her this kind of care. "Sal," she whispered, "you don't have to do all this." He stepped closer, shaking his head. "I know I don't. That's why I'm doing it." Her breath trembled. He reached for her hand, slow, deliberate, giving her every chance to pull away. She didn't. His fingers closed around hers, warm and steady. "Come, lie down." She let him guide her to the bed. He pulled back the covers and waited as she slipped beneath them. She felt strange lying there, safe, warm, protected, in a place that didn't belong to her but somehow felt like it did. Sal stood at her bedside for a long moment, watching her with an expression she couldn't decipher. She swallowed, her voice soft. "Are you going to rest too?" He shook his head faintly. "Not yet. You don't sleep much," she said. "Never have." She hesitated. "Will you stay? Just until I fall asleep again?" 1 heartbeat, 2. He nodded. He pulled a chair close to the bed and sat, leaning forward with his hands clasped, his body angled toward her. She watched him through half-closed eyes, her breathing evening out as she settled under the blankets. The silence between them felt intimate, warm, heavy with something beautiful and dangerous. "Sal," she murmured, eyes closing. "Yes? Why do you look at me like that?" His breath caught. She opened her eyes slightly, enough to meet his gaze. "Like I'm something you want to protect." Sal didn't move, didn't breathe. Finally, he spoke, soft, raw, honest. "Because you are." Her eyes softened, and she fell asleep seconds later, the words settling over her like a promise. Sal stayed. He sat at her side for over an hour, watching her breathe, watching the rise and fall of her chest, listening to the soft sounds of the twins sleeping nearby. He didn't feel restless. He didn't feel impatient. He felt calm for the first time in years. When he finally stood, slowly, careful not to wake her, he leaned down just enough that his breath brushed her hair. "You're safe now," he whispered. He didn't touch her. Not yet. Not until she wanted him to. But he stayed in the room a moment longer, watching her sleep, before slipping out silently into the corridor. Dante waited at the far end, leaning against the wall with a knowing expression. Sal glared at him. "Not a word," Dante smirked. "Wouldn't dream of it." Sal didn't respond. He started down the corridor in long, measured strides. He had someone to find, someone to destroy. But for the first time in a long, violent life, he also had someone worth protecting for more than strategy or honor or pride. He had Elena, and he had her sons, and he wouldn't fail them. Not now, not ever. Morning arrived like a quiet revelation. Soft, warm light spilled into the corner suite, brushing gently across Elena's face. She stirred against the pillow, the fabric cool beneath her cheek. For the first time in what felt like years, she woke without fear, thundering through her chest. For a moment, she didn't remember where she was. She blinked into the stillness, letting the memory of the night return slowly, like an unfolding dream. Sal kneeling beside her, Sal carrying Matteo with impossible tenderness, Sal sitting at her bedside until sleep claimed her. Her heart tightened at the memory. She turned her head, breath catching when she noticed the small blanket draped over her shoulders that hadn't been there when she fell asleep. She closed her eyes briefly. He had come back during the night, or he had never left. Matteo stirred in his crib. Luca let out a soft whimper. Elena pushed herself upright instantly, her maternal instincts waking sharper than any alarm. She slipped from the bed quietly, gathered both babies into her arms, and pressed her lips to their foreheads. "You're safe," she whispered. "We're safe." The words still felt fragile, as if the world might shatter them at any moment. But the island didn't feel like a place where things shattered. It felt like a place where things were rebuilt. She moved to the rocking chair and settled with the twins, humming softly. Just as she did, a faint knock sounded at the door. Her breathing stilled. "Come in," she said, though part of her always braced for the worst. The door opened slowly. It was Sal, but not the sharp, calculating Don she'd seen in the command room, not the stoic man who never faltered in front of his men. He entered the room with an expression far gentler, far more open, an expression reserved only for her and the babies. He stopped in the doorway, his gaze softening as he took in the sight of her rocking the twins. "You're awake," he said quietly. She tried to smile, but her throat tightened. "I didn't expect you so early." "I didn't sleep," he admitted. Not much. His voice carried a truth he rarely offered anyone. Elena swallowed, her heart tugging at the vulnerability he allowed only in her presence. You don't have to worry about us every second. His gaze dropped to her hands cradling the babies. I do. She inhaled softly. He stepped closer, slow and steady, until he stood inches from the chair. He reached out, hesitant, careful, and lightly touched Luca's tiny foot. Morning, little man, he murmured. Elena's breath caught as she watched the fierce, powerful Don of the Gambino family melt at the sight of her sons. It was almost absurd how natural he looked beside them, how protective, how grounded, how gentle. You should rest, she whispered. And miss this? He shook his head faintly. Not possible. The room filled with a quiet intimacy, thick and warm as sunlight. For the first time, Elena didn't try to look away from him. She didn't hide. Instead, she allowed herself to absorb the warmth of him, the sincerity, the impossible tenderness beneath all the stone and steel. He looked at her, really looked at her, and she felt something inside her shift. Elena, he said softly, I need to talk to you. Her stomach tightened. Is it about Mark? In a way, he said. Fear fluttered in her. She tightened her hold on Matteo. What happened? Sal moved to the edge of the bed, sitting slowly as if careful not to overwhelm her. His voice was low, controlled, but brimming with intensity. We tracked Callahan's calls again. He's getting desperate. He knows you ran. He's asking questions in places he shouldn't. Her pulse quickened. Does he know I survived? He suspects. Sal's jaw tightened. But he doesn't know where you are. But if he keeps looking, he won't find you, Sal said firmly. She inhaled shakily. You say that like you believe it completely. I do. How can you be so sure? He leaned forward slightly, his eyes locked onto hers. Because I'm going to stop him. She felt cold. Sal, what does that mean? It means he doesn't get to hurt you again. His tone was low, dangerous. It means he doesn't get to threaten the boys you love. It means his reach ends now. Her breath hitched. I don't want more violence. I know, he murmured, but some men don't understand anything else. Elena slowly lifted her gaze to him. What are you planning? He hesitated, not out of doubt. Sal never doubted, but out of the need to balance the truth with her fear. I'm planning, he said finally, to make sure he can never touch you again. Not legally, not physically, not in any way. Her heart pounded painfully. Sal, you deserve peace, he said, his voice softer now. You deserve safety. You deserve to sleep without fear. Tears pooled in her eyes. And you? He blinked, thrown by the question. What about me? Do you deserve that? She whispered. Peace. His mouth parted slightly, as if he wasn't prepared for her to ask that. I don't know. I think you do. She looked directly into his eyes. I think you've carried more than anyone should. Sal stared at her, a long, silent moment that stretched like a held breath. Then he spoke. Quietly. The moment I saw you, everything shifted. I stopped thinking like a man who has nothing left to lose. I started thinking like someone who has something worth protecting. Her heart clenched. This isn't just about eliminating a threat, he continued, voice rough. This is about giving you a life where you're not trapped in fear. She looked down at the twins, then back at him. I don't want you going to war because of me. He leaned closer, his presence warm and consuming. I'm not going to war because of you. I'm going to war because of what was done to you. Eleanor's breath trembled. His hand moved, slow and deliberate, lifting to cup her cheek with infinite gentleness. She didn't flinch. She leaned into his touch without thinking, the warmth grounding her. You're safe here, he said softly, but peace only lasts if the threat is gone. Her voice cracked. Sal, I'm scared, I know. His thumb brushed her cheek. But you're not alone. She closed her eyes, letting the weight of those words sink deeper than she expected. Look at me, he whispered. She did. The moment their eyes met, the entire room disappeared. Elena, he murmured, I will protect you with everything I am, with everything I have. Tears slipped down her cheek. He caught them gently with his thumb. I'm not asking for anything from you, he said. Not your trust, not your love, not your forgiveness. I just want you to live, to breathe, to heal. Her breath trembled as she whispered, You already have my trust. Something flashed in his eyes, something fierce, vulnerable, overwhelming. He leaned closer, his forehead almost touching hers. Their breaths mingled. The electricity between them was palpable, humming like a live current. Sal, she whispered. His voice dropped to a whisper so soft it barely existed. Tell me to stay away, he said. and I will. Tell me this is too much, and I'll give you space. Tell me anything, and I'll follow it. Her heart pounded. She had never had power in intimacy before. Never had a man kneel emotionally before her, offering choice instead of control. She swallowed, her voice breaking. I don't want you to stay away. Relief washed over his face, raw and beautiful. He leaned in closer, closing the tiny space between them. But instead of kissing her, though every cell in him wanted to, he pressed a soft, reverent kiss to her forehead. She inhaled sharply, her soul shattering open. He pulled back slowly, eyes lingering on hers. Elena, he murmured, I'm here. Whatever comes next, we face it together. She nodded, emotion choking her. Together. Sal rose then, straightening with purpose. I'll handle Callahan, he said, and when this is over, you and the boys will have a life he can never touch. She believed him. She truly believed him. And as he left the room to prepare for whatever storm he was about to unleash, Elena held her sons close and whispered into their soft hair, we're finally safe. Outside the suite, Sal stood still for a moment, letting the weight of her trust settle inside him like armor. Then he walked down the corridor, eyes hard, voice low, every step echoing one truth. He would burn the world down before letting anyone take them from him, and Mark Callahan's time was up.